Happy Friday. You're watching ABC News. I'm John Santucci in Washington alongside Justin Fischel. We finally made it after a long week. The president beginning his vacation. He is up in Bedminster, New Jersey. We're going to talk about that and all of the headlines. Good to be just you and I.
Yeah,
I don't know who made that programming choice. They're probably going to be fired. Let's move on, though, to other headlines. So about last night, the president held one of the 3 rallies he's going to do this week. He started off in Tampa, Florida. He ended up in Pennsylvania last night. He's going to Ohio on Saturday. A ruckus rally from the president. I want to bring in ABC's White House correspondent, Tara Palmieri. She's traveling with the president up in New Jersey. A rainy New Jersey, though she's joining us from inside in the press room. Beautiful setting behind you, Tara.
Right.
But let's talk about last night. I mean, it was really, you've seen the president here every time he's hitting the road, the volume, the temper, he is just getting hotter and hotter.
That's right. He was really aggressive against the press, calling us horrendous, disgusting people. And he seemed to really be railing on about the idea that we're not covering his presidency the way that he sees it. And he specifically talked about that meeting with Vladimir Putin in Helsinki. He doesn't think that it's a big deal that he's so close to the Russian president, and that our own law enforcement officials say that Russia is still a threat. You can hear him on the stage. Listen to this.
And have a boxing match. I said, whatever happened to diplomacy? But if I get along with Vladimir Putin, that's a good thing, folks.
As you can see from that, he's clearly mocking the coverage, but at the same time, his own law enforcement heads, FBI Director Chris Wray and DNI Director Dan Coates, they were in the briefing room saying the exact opposite on the same day, and you didn't hear a peep about election meddling from the president in Pennsylvania, and the crowd was going wild. And as we know from polling, Republicans think that he did a fine job with Vladimir Putin.
Yeah, and we were actually watching that last night, Tara, and Justin, bringing it back to you, that massive briefing we had yesterday, the most special guest we've had at the podium. It is still a separation from what the president's administration and the president are saying on this issue.
Well, right. I mean, you would think that at a campaign rally, it would be an appropriate place to talk about election security. No mention of it. And as Tara pointed out, it's just a striking contrast to what we saw in the White House briefing room. He wants to get that message across, and he brought those national security officials out there to do it, that the elections are still being targeted by the Russians. But you get the sense that he doesn't want to say it himself.
Yeah. Totally. Now, one thing he does want to say on his own, though, is that he is talking about a pending government shutdown, switching gears a little bit, but it was the other part of the rally that caught a lot of attention last night. Let's take a listen to that.
We're going to start to get very nasty over the wall. We're either getting it or we're closing down government. We need border security. We need border security.
And Tara, sources I've been speaking to over the last couple of days have said he's dead serious. He really wants the government to shut down to prove his point, but there is a major risk in that heading closer to the midterms.
That's right. It's a real political gamble. And I know from my sources on the Hill that every time this president makes that announcement that he thinks it's better to shut down the government before the midterms rather than after, like he agreed with Republican leaders Mitch McConnell and Paul Ryan, there are lots of calls placed to the White House saying, hey, did you mean it this time? Did you mean it this time? And he seems to be taking the advice of Sean Hannity, Rush Limbaugh. Those are his unofficial advisors, and they are media heads that tend to really skew to the far right, and rather than listening to Republican leaders that say, hey, we got moderates, we've got all sorts of Republicans that need to be reelected. But the crazy thing is that in Pennsylvania, the crowd was going wild for the idea of a shutdown, and people we spoke to outside said they think border security is a main priority. Pennsylvania is nowhere near the Mexican border, but it clearly is a message that goes across the country.
Yeah, and certainly as we're seeing right now from tweets he has sent previously, he does not care about the political ramifications on this one.
I'll tell you this, it's going to be hard for him to brand it the Schumer shutdown this time around. He's the only one talking about it, so I mean, it's going to be hard to pass that off.
Yeah, totally. One we're definitely going to watch. Tara Palmieri in wet Bedminster, New Jersey. We appreciate it, Tara. We'll be watching you all weekend. You've already had that branded. We'll watch you all weekend on GMA. Thank you, Tara. Switching gears now, let's move over to the Eastern District of Virginia, where we've been watching the first trial of Special Counsel Robert Mueller. It is, of course, the trial of Paul Manafort, the former campaign chairman to Donald Trump. Let's go out to our colleague, Catherine Falders. She's been out there all week watching this one. And Catherine, we've had a little bit of a fire drill all day. We thought maybe possibly the star witness for the government, Rick Gates, Manafort's longtime partner, the former deputy campaign manager for the Trump campaign, would take the stand. Doesn't seem like that's going to happen, but you've been tracking this. We've been learning a lot about Paul Manafort's finances.
Yeah, John, and I have to say that we've had a couple scares today. You and I both, we've been on the phone. Like, do you think it will be today? And I've run around this courtroom about 4 times today, the various different entrances, thinking, oh my gosh, did I miss something? Did I miss him going in? But you're right. This has turned more to delving into his financial records. We heard about the tax evasion part in the beginning of this trial when it focused on all those lavish expenses. And now we're really talking about bank fraud and financials. And I have to say, they're very complicated financial and tax matters. Now but they're important. So you had the bookkeeper, his bookkeeper for 7 years, testify yesterday. She wasn't aware of all of these over a dozen offshore accounts that prosecutors allege that Manafort had. She wasn't aware of over millions of dollars on the company's ledger, on the company's financial records. And today, John, we've heard from 2 different accountants. His first accountant has taken the stand, and now we just heard from the second accountant here. And Manafort's attorney really in court today was making this argument that, look, Manafort wouldn't be stupid enough to put the company's names on these financial forms to potentially expose them to auditing, John. But hearing from the bookkeeper and the accountants, it does kind of diminish that whole defense that, hey, look, Manafort is not guilty of these financial crimes.
And Catherine, we've been watching how fast this case has been going. I mean, this district is referred to as the rocket docket. They are known to get cases through, done, and over very quickly. We originally thought this trial was going to be maybe 3 to 4 weeks, but now we're hearing we may actually see the government wrap their case by early next week.
Early next week. That's what they're saying. The prosecution said that they want to rest their case early next week. And you remember we had the jury seated within 4 hours. So obviously this district is living up to that rocket docket mentality. And look, they have witnesses cycling through every single day, multiple witnesses testifying. So things are moving very, very quickly here. That's also part of the reason that we just never know who's going to show up.
Well, that is why you've got your sneakers on to run around the courtroom all day. Catherine Falders out in the Eastern District of Virginia. Thank you very much, and thank you to our team who's been out there all week covering the trial. We appreciate it. We're going to bring you back inside the Bureau now because we've got a little tradition we've been starting here. It's called Fact Check Friday. I don't do it. This guy does, so I'm going to let him take it away.
I'm the one with the facts,
Now, well, let's not get that far. But so you've been looking every week for the last couple months now, really. You've been putting this together. Some of us can't even approach you on Thursdays as you start to gather your list.
It's stressful.
It's hard.
Well, we want to be completely accurate, and when you're fact checking, it's important that all the facts are laid on the table. And this week was no exception.
Yeah. So what's on your docket for this week?
Right.
What do you got?
So last night he was in the heart of steel country, Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania.
Yep.
This is big. He said they're opening 7 new steel plants,
and they are.
Yeah. Well, no. Let's listen to what he said.
We're putting our steel workers back to work at clips that nobody would believe, right? U.S. Steel is opening up 7 plants.
Fact check.
Well, we called U.S. Steel.
Okay.
Because U.S. Steel is a company.
Okay.
And if they're opening 7 plants, they probably would have said something about it, and they have not.
They have not.
They have not. They said to us, look, they're supposed to have said,
so is that okay, now how do we do this with a fact check? Is that a false?
Well, it's not true,
is
how I said it. But I will say this. they have added about 1,000 jobs in Granite City. They've reopened some new machines there, but restarted some machines. But they have not opened 7 new plants in Pennsylvania, as he claimed. I mean, the crowd went crazy.
Yeah,
when he
no,
said
they ate that
That is
up.
no
Yeah.
small claim.
No,
Okay?
definitely not. Because that would bring more jobs. That would help an area like you said, it's steel country
It would be a
up there.
big deal. And now they have revitalized the business.
Right.
They've added jobs, but 7 plants would add quite a few. That it just didn't happen.
So now you do several things. You break down several different topics in the piece that's going to be going up on the site in a few minutes. The other
Here's
one,
the next one.
he's the most popular Republican ever?
That's what he said. He said, in no uncertain terms, I'm the most popular Republican ever, setting a recent poll, more popular than, ironically, Honest Abe.
Abe Lincoln?
Yeah. So now, there was no scientific polling when Abe Lincoln was president. I hate to say it. So that one we can sort of toss aside. And then when you actually look at the Gallup polls and the highs that all post-World War II presidents achieved, he's actually tied for second to last with Richard Nixon. Now, he did poll among Republicans at 90%. That is respectable. But at some point during their tenure, Bush 41, Bush 43, Eisenhower, Reagan, all did better at some point. So, most popular ever?
Yeah.
Not true.
I have to tell you, if I had to do a fact check right now and I would have thought you could pull those numbers out of your head, I would have failed that one. So, nicely done. That's going to be up on abcnews.com shortly.
Every week.
Every week. We'll have to tune in for that. You need a graphics package and some music. That is going to do it for us here in the briefing room. For Justin Fischel, I'm John Santucci. Make sure to download the ABC News app for all the latest anytime, all day. You are watching ABC News.